Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Monday, October 28th, and we are in for a bit of a ghoulish week this week with Halloween and the markets. So it could be scary, but there could be some treats in there as well, depending on how you play this out. So, what's going on today in the markets? It is a busy, busy week. First of all, we're seeing that heading into the open, and we are an hour and a half out, but heading into the open, everything is green in terms of the three US indices. The NASDAQ is up the most in terms of number and percentage terms at 0.61%. And a lot of this has to do with this being the week for the MAGs, for the most of the MAG 7 reporting. So it's a big, big earnings week with Google and Microsoft and Amazon and Meta and many others all coming out with numbers. And I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised by the numbers. If we take a look at the home screen, though, there's some other news going on in the market. So in addition, we've got the US election coming up a week Tuesday. That could be the ghoulish part as we head into the end of the week after we collect all of the treats from the different earnings reports, particularly on the tech side. We also have oil, crude oil, which is off more than $4 a barrel. So crude is getting pummeled in the market. The workers at VW in Germany are walking off the job today in protest of closing factories. Porsche, part of VW, announced that their profits, their earnings, were down for the quarter. So they're down 3% in the German market. Boeing is still having problems. We've got many things going on in the US election in terms of rallies and fighting over swing states to try to solidify a win on either the Democrat or Republican side. And then we've got the crisis in Ukraine, where Putin is working with the North Koreans, and the North Koreans are providing troops to help fight in that Ukraine war. So that's challenge and certainly something that is causing concern, as well as all of those countries having nuclear power and nuclear weapons. Um, and then other things coming up, NVIDIA is appearing to be getting chips into Asia, even though they're ultimately not allowed to with tariffs. If this reverberates back as something that is happening through an Indian third party, that could hurt NVIDIA. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that one. And then a realm of other news. I mean, next week as well, if we think about where we're headed, next week we have the US Federal Reserve making an announcement on rate cuts for October, and they're anticipating that we could see a quarter point rate cut at next week's Fed meeting. We have the election next Tuesday, so that's huge. And then we're going to be continuing to watch inflation as we move forward. We've got oil prices, which have just, if we take a look here at crude oil, down $4.36. So this is going into earnings for Chevron and Exxon. We've already had Valero numbers come out, and they were a miss. We've had SLB come out. So it's an interesting time in not only the calendar year, but also for earnings and what's going on around the globe. So if we turn our attention to the Yahoo Finance app and take a look through this, we do see some positives. So don't get me wrong, there is a lot of positive. The VIX is under 20. It's down 1.12 points today. And we have some positives on the tech side as well as others as well. So here you've got Costco and health and retail. It was off Friday. It's up $3 this morning. I think we could see Costco, especially if there's concern around the election. It could drive a little bit of temporary hoarding to prepare for some turbulent times as election results get, questioned. And that could drive Costco stock up. So I think Costco could be an interesting purchase from that capacity, from that perspective. You have Lulu. Lulu has been hit hard this year, but they seem to be on a bit of a recovery. If you look at the 6-month trend for Lulu, they're off their bottom. They're coming back. They're nowhere near their 365 high, but they're climbing up there. And so there's a possibility that we see a Lulu recovery with their earnings coming out in December. So pre the Christmas holiday, but post the US Thanksgiving. Walmart's been a pretty stable stock. This could get another good run like Costco in the event of folks stocking up on supplies, maybe after hurricanes, or in fear of what the results may be in the U.S. election. You've got Home Depot, which was off down below 400. It's up a little in the pre-market. This could be another positive replay stock or rebuilding stock after some of the hurricanes. We could see some growth here out of Home Depot. Nike in this high 70 range. I don't see a lot of movement in this until after the end of November, maybe into December, but keep an eye on that. I think the price for Nike, if you're looking to buy and hold something, which I wouldn't be looking to do right now, but if that's part of your mentality and your choice, then Nike might be an option if you're looking to hold something into the March timeframe, or even an option for Nike into the March timeframe. And then Humana. HCA got beat up with bad earnings. We haven't yet heard from Humana. We've got 2 days this week. We're going to hear from Humana. We'll see what's in the cards there. They've had a couple of bad quarters, so I have to anticipate that this quarter is going to be positive and we should see an uplift in Humana. But again, not a stock that I'd be piling money into. I think there's a lot of others, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute, that I think you can make money in this week. That said, if you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. Subscribers are growing on my channel, and I'm excited about that. I'm seeing that people are making money, which I'm excited about as well. And I really enjoy sharing information about the market narrative and where things are happening on an ongoing basis. So if you're getting value out of this, I'd love to know and love to have you as a subscriber. Oil is going to get hit hard today. So you can already see in the pre-market numbers that oil is taking a dive. Now, that said, I think we may see, I know we're going to see a turnaround. Like, obviously everything hits a bottom and then starts to recover. Crude oil futures December 24th down at $67. That is definitely a low for the year. So we're already bottoming out for the year. Getting below $67, $65 is probably unheard of, in my opinion. The one thing that could really swing oil in the next week or 8 days with the election is a Republican win. So if we see the Republicans win, a Trump win with drill, drill, drill could really bode well for the oil companies. So we could be nearing a bottom and see a turn there. Now, that said, if the Democrats get back in, it doesn't mean oil is going to go down further. So I think either party winning could be positive for oil, but the Republicans winning could be very positive on the oil front. And again, temporary positive, because it's simply the actual materialization of words and the translation of words into reality is going to take quite some time. It's going to be months, if not years, to see that materialize into profits and earnings, and growth. But just knowing that that growth is coming is a positive. So I have some oil right now. I'm not selling, but I'm going to wait this out. And I think I'm into oil now for probably at least 3 months, looking at where we are before I'm going to get out of my positions in oil. But most of them pay a decent dividend. So I'm just going to ride that dividend wave in the oil. So that would be more of a swing trade instead of a day trade. Then we get down into TAC. Now, TAC is where I think there's an opportunity for you to make a great deal of money this week in percentage terms and dollars, depending on the number of dollars you're investing. But we have a lot of earnings coming out, and let's focus on the ones that are coming out this week over some of the others. But before we jump into that, one company to be leery of, CrowdStrike, Delta just announced they've launched a lawsuit against them for the major outage. So I do expect a pullback in CrowdStrike. They got back up to the 300 range, but I would expect that they're going to fall maybe up to 10% in the next little while as more companies pursue lawsuits against them as well for that global outage. So just news of those lawsuits is a bit of a concern. It doesn't mean they're going to lose the lawsuit because their legal agreements and licensing agreements are probably fairly tight in terms of what their risk mitigation is when they provide software to companies that buy it. But that is a concern. Okay, so if we look at Apple, Apple's coming out this week. I think the Apple numbers are going to be very positive. Apple, though, has had a pretty positive run in the last 3 months. So I don't know if there's a huge amount of room for Apple to move up unless they really hit the numbers out of the park. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're going to do that. Now, what's working for them here is the numbers from the telecom providers, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, have all been very positive this quarter. And if you drill into those numbers, a part of those numbers is new subscribers. Now, if the new subscribers is also new devices, and those devices are iPhones, and there's demand for iPhone 16, which is launching, then that may bode well for Apple. I think in the long run, Apple's a very good buy and hold for long-term growth, but I'm not sure it's going to jump significantly on earnings. But I think having Apple in your portfolio is definitely a good thing. If we scroll down further, we have Microsoft reporting this week. So Microsoft is an interesting one. If we look at Microsoft as a company, they usually are very predictable on their earnings and their financials and their revenue, and they move within bands. So and if there is a problem, the company, Microsoft, is usually very upfront about that and getting it out into the media, into the analysts' hands before they announce earnings. So that makes their earnings even more predictable. And usually within a few days or the day of earnings, Microsoft is generally up about 2% in 19 days. So that said, that translates into about there's about a 4% upside or a $17 upside to Microsoft right now. So that's the expected move there. So this could be an interesting play to get into on Tuesday, pre-Microsoft's numbers on Wednesday. The first company I would look to get into, though, and I have been loading up on, thankfully, is Google. And Google is up in the pre-market today. It's up $3, so it's looking like it could get up into the 170s. And we talked about this last week. I expected a run up into earnings. And it was a dog last week. It was in the 164 range. So if you bought when we were talking about that in the 164, you're well positioned. And I think digital media, digital advertising, all the things, the spaces that Google operates in, the revenue and earnings I'm expecting are going to be phenomenal, as well as Meta. I think Meta right now in the 570s, although it's had a very good run, I think there's also a lot of room for upside in Meta on good earnings this week. And that's another one that I'd be loading up on. And then finally, we take a look at today, we're going to hear from onsemi. And I'm expecting good numbers out of onsemi. And they announced at 8:30 this morning. So I'm expecting good numbers from onsemi this morning. So we'll have to wait and see what they come out with. Others that you can play at the same time would be the semis. I think we're in for a good first 3 to 4 days of the week with our semiconductor stocks. I think hearing from all of these large tech stocks, they're all going to be talking about AI and what they're doing with AI and what their AI expenditures are. And the majority of that AI spending in hardware is going to NVIDIA. So I think that's going to bode very well. We've also next week got Cloudflare. So I think Cloudflare, this is a stock that in the last few months has climbed from the $67 range up to the 94 range. It's now come down to 88. I think this is going to be a mid-90s stock, if not tipping up into the $100 within the next 10 to 14 days around their earnings or post earnings. I think Microsoft is a good buy right now in the 128 range because I think we're going to see this get up to say 145, 150 on earnings. I think on today, this morning, pre-market in 15 or 20 minutes, should get up into the $78 to $80 range. I think we could see a pretty significant pop here in this one. And then one of the ones we haven't talked about yet is Amazon. And this is one that I expect will have some, where are we? Amazon should have some pretty positive growth as well. This stock has been a laggard. So if you look at where it was down in the 150s at the beginning of the year. It's now up to the 187s. That's not, even though it's a 23% move, in comparison to some of the other companies, it's not a huge move. It really hasn't moved as much as, say, the likes of a, where are we here? Let's get to Meta. Why am I missing it right here? Meta in the year to date is, and announces in 2 days, is up 61, 62%. So again, I think it's got a lot more room to go. This is a phenomenal company. I would definitely have that, and do have that as part of my portfolio. Then we get down into financials. SoFi announces this week. So we've got earnings tomorrow from SoFi. And I am a huge believer, as you know, in SoFi. This stock is getting to the point where it's going to have doubled in the year very shortly. So if we look at year to date, those numbers are weird. They are not correct. I guess they're looking at where it started year to date, so maybe they are correct. But anyway, if you were in January, then obviously you didn't do so well. But if you bought in when we were talking about this back in the 680, 640, even down into the, I think it got into 598 at one point, you've gotten to a point where you pretty much doubled your money here on this stock. And I think we're going to have great earnings and a great go forward story with SoFi. So I'm still very, very bullish on SoFi. Some of the other banks pulled back, and I think this is a buying opportunity here. I wouldn't be putting capital into these right now. I'd be focusing 100% on technology and the tech stocks that are making announcements this week, because I think that's where there's the potential to make a great deal of money this week. Take a look at earnings just before we wrap up for the day. You've got onsemi this morning, so again, in 15 minutes. Tomorrow, we've got AMD, Visa, Google, and SoFi, and then Reddit. Reddit is one that I'm not bullish on. I think Reddit could be a good short. I think the results could be positive. I don't think they're going to live up to things long term. I think they're going to be like a Snap, where they've spiked after IPO, they've had a few good earnings, but then they're just not going to be able to meet expectations. And there's going to be way better options out there in terms of other companies to put your money into. And those would be Meta, Microsoft. Humana, I'm positive on, but again, I wouldn't be piling money into that. Summit is a long-term, long shot stock for me, so I've got very little bit of money in that, but I'm expecting some good things there. And then Thursday, Apple, strong hold or a strong buy. Amazon, I think will do very well at the same time, especially with their cloud business. And then Cenovus Oil, so stay away from that right now. And another long-term hold just for the dividend, Cogeco, but it has been a dog from a capital appreciation. In fact, it's been a capital loss for a couple of years. So it might be a good opportunity to buy in because it's recovering. But if you hold it like I do, you've seen some losses in that, and you're just living off the dividend until that makes its way back. And then Friday, Enbridge, again, not too excited about that. I'm very nervous actually going into Exxon and Chevron's earnings, but positive about that. I mean, the recent drop, the today drop of $4.36 in crude isn't going to affect their current quarter, but it does certainly create a little bit of go forward risk in terms of their future forecasts. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I expect crude's going to bounce back. I don't think it's going to take a $4 plus dip and then not bounce back. So that could be another thing that turns around quite quickly. And that's where we are for the day, for the week. Lots of things going on. Focus on the tech side to make some money this week. That's where the profits will be. Good luck with your trades. And again, if you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button.